Okay, so thank you for coming out in the rain. And by way of introduction, my name is Patty Yaffa, and I am proud to be a commissioner on our Ridgefield Commission on Aging. And we have this monthly wonderful forum called Senior Voices. I'm so glad all of you could be here today. And I also want to keep going on the commissioners that are present. In the back, we have Joe Giannullo, who is our chair. And in the room, we also have Carmen and Clem, the two C's, right? The two C's, and all wonderful people here to help. And I want to get this right. So Wade Rockwood, and you are, wait a minute, I took my good notes. Okay, you are, I'm very happy to say that you're the executive director of the Ridgefield Housing Authority. And you're going to be our main speaker. Hi, Colette, thank you for coming. And we also get our friends to come too, right? And sitting next to him is a lady by the name of Jen Brackenwagon, who is on the Affordable Housing Committee. Most likely she will be able to answer questions in addition to those posed to Wade. So before we listen to Wade, I want to get started on some of the things that we're going to be talking about. And I also want to say, Colette, thank you for coming. Colette is a real estate agent at William Pitt Sotheby's, and I asked her to join us because advance notice in May, and we will announce that further down the line, she will be on a panel of professional presenters regarding the market and housing for seniors. So that's more to come. Okay. Now, news. Take note of this because there are about 5 different bullet points I want to mention, and we can always go over them again. The first thing is that now's the time for the elderly tax exemption applications that are being accepted by the tax assessor. Second thing is that there is also the time to apply for the senior tax deferral applications, also being accepted by the tax assessor. Additionally, the quarterly real estate tax payments for Ridgefield are due no later than February 1st. There is also the ARP free tax prep program at the Ridgefield Library. I'm not expecting people to take notes, but you can always ask me later. You can call John Elko at 203-438-4288. And also very important is that the next Senior Voices Forum after this will be held on March 12th. And the exciting news about that is that it's going to feature a first selectman, Rudy Marconi, and Ken Devane of MindTech, who will both present the senior survey results that I would like to say most of you, if not all of you, graciously filled out so we can get a pulse on your needs. Okay, now, Wade, would you like to come up to I'd like you to come up to the podium, please. Okay, and share with us your information. Thank you. And since I've now become an expert, left and right. Okay, so I'm going to sit down. Is anyone taking photos? You're tapping from me or for Wade? There you go. Is anyone taking photos? I can take a picture from my iPhone.
Would be nice, so we can share it with the people that can't attend.
Okay, thank you.
So let me introduce myself to everyone. Again, my name is Wade Rockwood. I'm actually the executive director for Real Estate Masters, which is a third-party property management company that is actually the third-party property management company for Ridgefield Housing Authority. So I'm the acting. Oh, sorry. So again, my name is Wade Rockwood. I am the executive director for Real Estate Masters, which is a third-party property management company that we have a contract with Ridgefield Housing Authority, and I'm acting as the executive director for that for Ridgefield Housing. A little bit about me is I did grow up in Ridgefield. My family's from Ridgefield. My parents actually lived here for 40 years, and they moved out recently.
I'm having a hard time hearing you back here. Others probably are too, and they probably can't hear you on the. Maybe can we do something with the mic, or can you hold it in your hand? Maybe. Hold on.
You all hear me when I spoke?
Yes,
And maybe I would,
maybe project more.
yeah, me, I, into the mic, and I
Okay.
have a loud voice, I'm sorry.
I can even find that on Zoom.
Can everybody on video hear me?
Yes, like, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so the video can, so can you hear me back there?
Better now.
Tony, can you hear me? Okay, so again, my name is Wade Rockwood. There we go. I'm the executive director for Real Estate Masters, which is a third-party property management company. We have a contract with Ridgefield Housing Authority that we took over last year from Conover. So I'm the acting executive director for that organization. A little bit about my history as far as with regards to Ridgefield. I did grow up in Ridgefield. I did go to junior high at the time East Ridge Junior High School, and I went to Ridgefield High, graduating in 1984. My parents lived in Ridgefield up until about 2 years ago, so they lived in town for about 40 years. I still have a sister that lives in Ridgefield, that lives over in Ridgeberry section. I moved out due to affordability reasons, and live in the valley, down from Waterbury. So that's a little bit about me as far as my involvement in the property management arena. I did join Connecticut Housing Partners in 2016. I was the director of administration and human resources. I jumped into property management and was promoted last year to the exec director of Real Estate Masters, which is the third-party property management company. So that's a little bit about me. Today, Joe had asked me to come down and kind of talk to you about the affordable housing that's available to seniors in Ridgefield. So I'm going to talk specifically about the programs at Ridgefield Housing Authority, at Ballard Green and Prospect Ridge. So here we go. So one of the questions that came up was, what is affordable housing? So affordable housing, your rent and your utilities shouldn't exceed 30% of your total household annual income. This means, an affordable home is one where residents spend no more than 30% of their income towards rent. So if we look at HUD, they provide housing, urban development, provide the income limits each year. The information that I'm presenting to you is based on 2023. So I was just told by Lucy that the limits did go up in 2024. But as of 2023, last year, the Danbury area, the median household income was $96,100. So each area, like the Danbury area would cover Ridgefield. The median income up in New London may be different than what it is here versus down in Bridgeport. From that, to determine what the allowable housing costs are for that median household income, you take that amount, the 96,100 times 30% divided by 12 months. So that comes out to a monthly amount of $2,402.50. To look at the median income for a moderate income based on 80%, which is the 76,880, you would take that times 30% divided by 12 to come up with 1,922 per month. To get a very low income, you would take 30% of that figure and divide it by 12 months, and it would come out the same. So there are different tiers with housing. So for, like, if you think about, which we're going to get into, the affordable housing at Ridgefield, for Congregate and for Ballard, it's based off of 50% tiers. So there's different tiers. There's 80%, there's 100%, 80, 60, 50, 40, and it goes down. So very low income, at 30% would be 28,830. So that person's housing cost would be $720.75. So we also have a program called General Apartments that's based off the 60% tier. So the median household income for that particular development would be $57,660, or a monthly amount of $1,441. So I know it's kind of all confusing, but for affordable housing, it's based on what the median household income is calculated each year and provided by the state. So again, this is based on 2023. So at the time it was 96,100. I was told it went up to like 114,000. So that's just a little bit about, affordability.
Okay, what areas encompass Danbury? Like, does it go to Wilton or to New Milford, or is it just the towns that touch Danbury?
And could you repeat the question?
Sorry.
For the Zoom people and the rest of us?
So the question is, what area is included in the Danbury area? I'm only aware of I use it for Ridgefield. I don't know as far as how far out the what towns are included. I don't have the answer to that. Lucy, do you happen to know?
Oh, me,
Yeah.
Patty.
Patty.
Yeah, that's okay. If anybody has a specific question, I do know how to find that online.
I can look it up later, I just didn't.
Or a month from now. No, seriously. But yes, and it's going to 114,240.
Okay,
So that's a big jump.
it is.
Can make or break it for some people.
Tony?
Just, can you clarify the numbers that you're working with? Is that for a household of 3, a household of 4?
This is a single family household. Yeah,
Is this gross income or net income?
gross.
Well.
Okay.
I guess I have a question too. So I understand that the 96,000 now is 114 and change. And so is that saying that any single family household with less than $114,000 of gross income in 2023 or 2024 is eligible for affordable housing? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And that income also includes social security as well as.
Any kind of, right, any income. So if there's any income from assets, that anything that's considered income, if you have a house that you're renting, that income from that house rental is considered income. So anything that you're getting income, interest, is gonna put into what incomes. Yes,
Have you told how many square feet you can occupy
as far
as
as,
far as an apartment?
well, there are regulations as far as how many square feet per person. Yes, there are, but I
In
don't,
other words, if I were making me, say, 96,100, and I'm single, and I want affordable housing, do I have to take a 1-bedroom, or can I get 2-bedroom?
you can get a 2-bedroom,
You can get 2-bedroom.
yes.
Would it be the same amount, 2,400?
Well, depending on the program, you can't just say, oh, it's, 2,400, as far as what the rent's gonna be, there's calculations. Okay, so depending on the program, there's different programs. Like for Ballard, it's ERAP, which is Elderly Rental Assistance Program, you got the congregate, so it's hard to say without having your income. There's other factors, there's medical expenses get deducted. So you'd have to go through a calculation before just automatically saying your rent's gonna be this amount, because each person's situation is different.
These numbers, are these numbers for a couple or a single?
It's a
person?
single person,
a single person?
Yes,
And also, we keep talking about Ballard Green. I know people that live in Ballard Green. That's very low income. Is that still considered under affordable housing?
yes,
Because I couldn't afford to live there. So is that what you mean by the tier, here?
there's different tiers, so for Ballard Green, that particular program is 50%. So it'd be 50% of the 96 times 30% divided by 12 to come up with an idea of what the rent's gonna be. You know, there, like I said, again, there's other factors, so each person's factors, like for you to say that you can't afford to live at Ballard because your friends, well, I don't know, their circumstances may be different, their income may be different.
Yeah, I mean,
so-
my income is higher than what would be required. The people, who live there have much lower.
Yeah, so there is income restrictions as far as if you make too much. So I believe for Ballard, I think it's 48,000, so if you're, if you make $70,000, a year, you're not gonna be able, you're not gonna be eligible for it. But, there's other, rather than making that determination, I'd rather you come and speak with us and, kind of take a look.
You mentioned general apartments, what is that?
So there's 4 programs at Ridgefield Housing. We've got Ballard Green, we've got Congregate or Prospect Ridge, we have Meadows, and then we have general apartments. So general apartments, it's affordable, it's not subsidized, it's affordable housing. The low income max for the annual income is $57,660. So it's at a 60% tier versus a 50% tier.
Where are they located?
There are 2 locations. They're located at 51 Prospect Ridge, and also there are 18 units at Gilbert Street.
Yeah, that's all in the presentation later on.
Yeah. So I kind of want to talk about the subsidized housing programs and rental assistance. So if you think about subsidies, the programs that are subsidized for Ridgefield Housing are Ballard Green and Congregate. Those are subsidized by DOH. However, we do have other types of subsidies. We have tenant-based vouchers or section that residents can apply to. So we do have some residents that do get funding from City of Danbury. So City of Danbury actually manages the housing choice voucher program. There are different eligibility requirements. There's different times that you can apply for that type of housing. Not to say everybody's going to be entitled to it or be eligible for it, but it's an option for some residents. So we have tenant-based vouchers. So those vouchers go with the person. So if they can come to Ridgefield with a voucher that they had in a different town, as long as it's a tenant-based. They do have project-based vouchers, which is project-driven, where it's a particular unit might have a voucher where it stays with that unit, or it stays with a particular program. The elderly rental assistance program that we have at Ballard Green is actually subsidized by DOH. So a portion of the rent is paid by DOH and a portion is paid by the resident. For a Congregate housing service program, that is also subsidized by DOH, and that program is a little bit different. And that not only is it subsidized by DOH, where the residents paying a portion of their rent, and DOH is paying the other portion. They have services as well. So we have light housekeeping, we prepare one meal a day. We have a resident service program so that there's activities that are brought into for the residents to use. And she also gets services in for residents as well if they need an aid or something like that. We'll work with the resident to kind of make sure those hands are shaking. And we have 24/7 security as well. So that's all part of the program. I mean, with the Congregate Housing Service Program, you do need to need the services, meaning there's a frailty component to it. So you need the services as far as needing somebody to come in and give you a hand with maybe cleaning once a week and daily preparing of meals. Okay, so what are the programs, housing programs for seniors at Ridgefield? First, like we just talked about, is Ballard Green, which is the Elderly Rental Assistance Program. So the resident's going to pay 30% based off the 50% tier where I was talking about as far as the different tiers. Residents pay at minimum a base rent, and this is based on 2023, was $540 or $576. So there are base rents based on the size of the unit. So if your rent is at $576 and your portion comes out to $200 per month, you would pay the $200 and DOH would pick up the $376. Now, if your income dictates that you're paying $800 a month, then you would pay that full $800. So DOH is only subsidizing, only paying up to the $576 or the $540. Then we have the Congregate Prospect Ridge program, the Congregate Housing Service Program, where we provide a meal, one meal a day. It's a lunch meal. We have light housekeeping once a week. We have security and resident services that are offered to the residents. So that program, the base rent and the service, there's two components to it. So you have the rent portion and then you have the service portion, and that totals $1,808. From there, the resident would pay 30% based off a 50% income tier, just like with Ballard. The resident pays. So the example here that I showed you was that the overall rent is $810. The tenant contribution in this particular example was $303, and the subsidy, which is the portion that DOH is going to pick up, is $507. Then you would take that calculation and put it through the services portion, which is $998 per month, and then there's a deduction for first it's adjusted based on 50% of the monthly income, and then there's the deductions for the person's food, personal items, and a medical allowance that gets deducted. And then in this example, the tenant contribution was $181 and DOH subsidy portion was $817. So the breakdown would be the resident would end up paying $484 per month and DOH would pick up the $1324.
Quick question, with any of these programs, how often are they reassessed in terms of income? Is it an annual, or they sign up, people can sign up for this and have peace of mind that this is going to be continuing for a while?
Well, as far as the assessment of rents, those are assessed every year. Okay, so every year DOH puts out new guidelines Those are reviewed and then those go through the board for approval as far as any types of increases. They take COLA into consideration, operating expenses as far as what things cost. They take that all into consideration. And we have guidelines with regards to rents, like we just can't just raise rents to whatever. We have guidelines as far as we're told, all right, this is the rent that you can charge. It's the most you can charge.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Just gonna say, so that going from, what is it, 96 up to 114? Those changes for a location like this make a radical difference in the rents moving forward, I would imagine. Like you
There-
will seriously reassess a lot of rents because of a change like that. 'Cause it will
yes,
Change.
I mean, but it's every year.
Right, but.
Every year, I don't know, like, I didn't look to see 2022 to see what the annual income was, so
It was 87,000 change.
Just
I know it was
96 to
80 87 to 97 is 10,000,
Right.
so. And like, again, it's also based on what COLA was last year. COLA was 8.9, so Social Security went up 8.9, so people were seeing this big increase in their Social Security. So this year, I believe, was like 3 point something, so Social Security didn't really go up that much, so. And I don't want to speculate as far as what the future holds with regards to rents, but we will be reviewing those this next quarter to understand, rent increase, whether there is one, there isn't one, or stays flat, I don't know.
Anything else? So just as an example, when you give them, like, the last time you raised the rents, like 2022 maybe, or during COVID, about what you have to know? what-
Trying to remember what the percent increase was,
5.3.
5.3%. And COLA was 8.9 and we increased it 5.3. Joe?
I have three questions, and you might address them later on, I'm not sure. But the first question, when you say resident, let's say someone from Ridgefield wants to get into one of these housing complexes that you manage, and someone else from Danbury wants to get in. And the person from Danbury arrives at the door before the person from Ridgefield. Is it first come, first served, or do Ridgefield residents have priority? That's the first question. The second question, you want to answer that?
Because otherwise I'll forget. So it's based on a waiting list. So when a person hands in an application, it's date stamped, it's entered into the system. They're given a position number. And based on that position, so if the person from Danbury is position 2, and the person in Ridgefield is position 10, we're gonna outreach to the person in Danbury because it's basically, first come, first serve.
So the.
So-
Ask that question, it's already relevant.
That's not.
A number of people have approached me and the Commission on Aging, saying that they feel that Ridgefield residents should have priority. And so the question is, how can we make that happen?
Go ahead.
You can't, that's.
You can't, I mean, first of all, it's a state program. These are subsidized programs. It's not a Ridgefield. It's the state, so somebody else could look at it and say it's not fair that you're giving Ridgefield residents preference over me. I was here first, I applied first.
I see, but the town could do that if it wanted.
No.
No,
Yeah.
It's not a town, it's not a-
I know that they do that in Massachusetts.
Maybe you need the town create its own program.
Yes. So I know of towns in Massachusetts that have created affordable housing for its residents. In fact, I'm at the top of the list for one in Linfield, Massachusetts. So the question of whether Ridgefield residents can get priority, at least in Massachusetts, they can. And the reason it's relevant, I think, is because people have asked them. And they asked, one of the reasons why we asked for you to be here is because early on in the first meeting, that was a question that came up.
I do not.
I'm gonna give you two answers to that. One is that, when you do that, if you were to limit to Ridgefield, for instance, there are many of our residents in the housing authority that are parents of Ridgefield residents.
Right.
You know, they come in, their children bring them in to be able to live nearby, and they're within the housing authority. If you were to go the way you were saying, those people would not have, you know, so it's kind of like a mix there.
That's absolutely, I understand what you're saying. That applies in Massachusetts as well.
So these are really basically state rules. I do remember reading something somewhere that there was a possible way to create some kind of a point system within, but we haven't gotten to that point, and I don't even know if that's a legitimate thing. I just read it in an article, so it wasn't a state article, it was an article.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know, we're a year in with the new management company, and we're just finishing our transition, so always start with things.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, we could, your question, Joe, we can certainly bring up, you know, the powers that be and kind of give some thought to that, but.
Well, the thing is to not think of them as Ridgefield units. That's where you can start to disabuse yourself of the notion that we have first access to the Ridgefield units. They're not Ridgefield units. They're state units for affordable housing. And the precedence is given based on the wait list. And all of the aspects of get where you are on the wait list comes with when you've applied, and then all of the information he's giving you about where you fall in income. And there is a point system, as you say, but it's based on all of this information as well as where you are on the wait list. There are some, and I'm sure you're gonna get into this, there are different requirements even sometimes per unit. I know there was a unit in Ridgefield that they could not fill because it was required that it go to a person who was had a physical disability, and they're having a hard time finding a person on the wait list that had a physical disability. So if you really start to think of these as not our units and not a Ridgefield thing, but a state thing, it also allows you to get on the wait list in other places that your family might have moved from Ridgefield to Fairfield or to New Haven. You can easily get on the wait list there, and you don't only have to be on one wait list. You can be on different wait lists.
Is there a central wait list?
Not
No.
in anyone.
So you, so if I was applying, I have to apply to every town in the area?
Well,
Separate.
Well, there's,
Go ahead, sorry.
thank you though. For Ridgefield, we have 4 wait lists, so depending on which development you wanted to live in, you would sign up for that wait list.
Could you please mention the 4, because I've been calling all.
So we've got Ballard Green, you have Ballard Green wait list, you have Congregate or Prospect Ridge, same thing. And we have General Apartments
General Apartments,
and Meadows.
Meadows, so you're not Prospect Ridge,
Yes, Prospect Ridge, yes.
you called it, okay. All right, they told me the rent was like $3,000 a month at the callback in March. So I'm very confused, so that's why I'm here, thank you.
I know maybe-
Yeah,
Maybe
I don't know.
after I'm gonna use my position of moderator, please, after the meeting, we'll have time, because you have an important question which should be
No, I don't
addressed.
have an important, I'm just trying to
Question.
learn everything, okay, listening and trying to learn.
Tony,
A simple one for you. If you could maybe just clarify for people about the services that people receive, the mandatory nature of the services. I sometimes hear from people that say, well, I don't really want the meal or I don't really want the cleaning.
yeah, what, for the Congregate or Prospect Ridge program. It's not something you can just say, I don't want the services, so I don't want to pay it. It's part of that program. So the Congregate program is including the 1 meal a day, the light housekeeping, the security. It comes with that program. So It's not like something that you can just say, oh, I'm not gonna use it. You know, the people that live there, they're using those programs. It's meant for people that need a little bit of assistance. I mean, and if you think about life, there's different levels. I mean, all the living here in Ridgefield, housing is all independent living. There are assisted living places here in Ridgefield as well. There's nursing homes. So there's kind of different levels. Some people don't want to live in a nursing home. They don't want to live in assisted living. So the step down from that is living in like a congregate facility.
And you have the special features nicely outlined on your successive pages.
I think I do, yes.
No, you do.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very confused about affordable housing. I understood that affordable housing, yes, was based on the percentage and how much of the median. But what about someone who makes $75,000? Where's the affordable housing for them if they can't afford a market price apartment, which are now going for up to $2,400 a month?
Yeah, that's a difficult situation where you're, you know, you make too much money, so you can't, you're not meeting the requirements to live here. And you don't make enough to live in market rate. And there are people that, you know, I don't know, Jen, as far as like the different solutions that people have for that, I don't.
Well, it's one of the things that we try to address because there's, as he's talking about, there's a lot of different forms of affordable housing. And what we're looking here is government supported affordable housing. But what you're trying to find really is what they call naturally occurring housing. Naturally occurring, and it's not, that's not a specialized thing at all. It just means that it's housing that exists that is affordable by its nature. So if you were in Ridgefield and you were looking for naturally occurring affordable housing, you might look at Cassigmo or Fox Hill, because there are rentals in there that are more affordable than the market rate because of when they were built or things like that.
That's where the $2,400.
No, I know, I'm sorry, but yeah, and I lived in Fox Hill until 2 years ago, so I appreciate how much the rents have gone up there. But my point is that there isn't a there is a point where the government programs no longer support your income, are not supported by your income. And so the options after that are market rate. And the only option within the market rate is to find something that is naturally more affordable than the other things that are locally available.
So in other words, there is no program.
You're right. Yes, there is not. And
Here.
I was not trying to disabuse you of it, to mislead you and make you think there was a program to support you. I'm sorry if I did that.
Well, no, but from what I've read from various talk about it, I always assumed that there was. And when you look at the tiers,
Right.
you know, 70, I forget what it was, 76,000, 96,000. You know, I assumed those were different levels
Right.
for affordable housing, since that's what the meeting is about.
Right.
Hey, John.
So I'm new to the committee, so if I get to a place where I can't answer, can you guys help please?
May
If
I
I
just-
hear something that's wrong, please say it too.
All this is great, and may I just interject, and if I'm incorrect, let me know. So basically, this meeting, which is critically important, is talking about affordable housing as put out from the various states. When it's government, it's not Ridgefield, it's affordable housing and how it trickles down to what exists in Ridgefield as dictated by the state of Connecticut. So it's great for some, it's not great for others. And that's why when we speak and make with realtors, such as, thank you then, Colette, for being here, that's when we can talk about other things, but this is all government based. And thank goodness this exists. It's never enough. I get personally, but this is all what the government has put forth. Is that a correct, presumption?
And
Okay,
Any other questions?
Yeah, the affordable housing, does that apply to people other than seniors?
Yes.
It does, so the same.
So we have, so if you think about for Ridgefield housing, Ballard Green and Congregate, like they're doing Prospect Ridge, those are senior, there's a senior requirement, so you have to be 62 or over. The other developments, which is general apartments, there's no age requirement in order to live in general apartments or at home. So,
But it still has the income requirement,
yes. Income requirements are for all the developments.
and in that development, you were saying you have a list. Does that, is there competition, so to speak, between the people, the seniors, and the general public to be on the list? Can everyone be considered at the same time?
Yes, like for general apartments, there, like a senior's not gonna get a unit over somebody that's not a senior. It's based on
So it's all the
their
same.
position number, so it's when they applied, they'll be given a position number. And then as we get close to that number, we'll reach out and schedule an appointment to come out and take a viewing.
How large are the units? 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms?
We have how many? We have 24, hold on. Should brought my glasses, 21. 2 bedrooms. We have 120 1 bedrooms and we have 3. I'm sorry, we have 11 3 bedrooms. There's no, put on the next slide. Since you're mentioning that. So, here are kind of the breakdowns. This is Ridgefield housing. We have 60 subsidized units at Ballard Green. We have 34 subsidized units at Prospect Ridge. We have 38 affordable homes at General Apartments. And we have 20 affordable units at Meadows. And the way it breaks down per unit, so there's a total of 152 units. There are 120 1 bedroom. There are 21 2 bedroom and 11 3 bedrooms. And the units are located at 25 Gilbert Street and 51 Prospect Ridge. Those are the 2 locations.
Did you mention what was the maximum income to qualify for these programs?
No, I do have that information. So, I believe the maximum income for Ballard is 48,050. But I don't have the maximums for the other developments with me right today.
Okay, so if you your income is higher than that, you just have to go out on the market and rent.
Well, if it's 2-person, the income's gonna go up. So, I would have to speak with you individually to understand, whether you would be eligible or not. So here's some photos of our Ballard Green location, which is at 25 Gilbert Street. So there are 60 1 bedroom, 1 bath units. It is subsidized housing. So there's actually bedrooms. This is a living room. This is a bedroom here. I wanted to show just pictures of what the units look like so people get an idea. They're actually very nice units. This is a gazebo for the residents to use. We have a centralized community room that we have a lot of activities. Like this past Friday, we had a holiday party. These are just some photos. That's a photo of the outside of one of the buildings. I also put a picture of an aerial view of the development. So the units are approximately 500 square feet. The gas and electric utilities by Eversource, and the tenant is responsible for paying those. We have a laundry facility with 4 washers and 4 dryers that is free for the tenants to use. We also have resident services that are provided at that development as well. So the resident service manager is at that facility 2 days a week, so she comes up with activities for the residents. She'll have do connections with outside services. We have a very good relationship with Tony and his team at social services. And the property is monitored by security cameras. So it's a safe and nice place to live in Florida. Any questions on Ballard?
Well, just in general, so say you go through all this, figure out all the money and everything, and you're all good, you jump through all the hoops. And every community you can put your name on. Guesstimate, how long is those lists? 2 years, 5 years? What?
Ballard, it is a very lengthy list.
I've
There's
heard
not,
you're up to 5 years or something.
yes,
Yes.
there's not a lot of movement. Some people will transfer into Ballard from another development like General. So if you, as long as you live in the development for a year, you are allowed to put yourself on a transfer list. So, Tony?
I have an addition, I'd like to say that, in comparison to many other communities, Ridgefield Housing Authority's list is always open. So you can apply today, you can apply next week, you can, I always tell people, if you're thinking of applying, apply. Don't wait, somebody will get in line ahead of you. If you go to any other town in our region, you're likely to find that their lists are closed and you have to wait until the period when they're open. And so it can be very difficult to find affordable housing in many communities. Even though Ridgefield's list is long, it's always open. And so you don't have to wait for a 2-day window or a 4-day window, to hit the nail directly on the head. It's kind of like, landing your plane out in aircraft area. To find, Wilton or Weston doesn't have any, but in the region. So I think it's an important differentiation that Ridgefield list is always open. You can apply today after the lease year, you can wait a month, you can wait a year.
And where do you apply to?
It's on the last, that's on your last page of the.
Yes. So I have information on that. I also brought some applications, so if anybody's interested in applying, there's some applications up here you can take with you. Move on to the next. So the next property I want to talk about is our Prospect Ridge, our congregate facility that's located on 51 Prospect Ridge. So there's 34 one-bedroom units. Again, this is subsidized as well. There are approximately 500 square feet. The thing that's good with this program is that all the utilities except for cable and TV are included in the rent. So you don't have to worry about those additional charges for utilities. We do provide weekly late housekeeping. Again, this is something that that person is going to need. So we have a laundry room there. There's also a small exercise room. We do provide 1 meal a day, which is a lunch meal. So many residents will either come down, they can take the lunch up, or if they want to save it for dinner, they can do that as well. So the pictures, the two on the left are the exterior of the building. And then the lower left is the bedroom. There's a picture of someone's living room and the kitchen. And then I took a picture of our cafeteria. So there's 24/7 security as well as at this establishment. So there's always somebody, either staff or security there 7 days a week, 24 hours. And we have resident services with that as well. So they're going to be coming up with activities for the residents. They're going to be doing case management. There's really an engagement with the residents to understand their needs. A lot of, I think family members, have the, where they feel free of concerns with their parent being there, because if there's any issues, we'll reach out to them. Do we have any questions on Prospect Ridge?
Only has one bedroom units.
Yes, Ballard and Congregate, both those developments have 1 bedrooms.
Thank you.
So what are the eligibility requirements for these programs? So again, the 2 senior developments are Ballard Green and Congregate, which is Prospect Ridge. So for Ballard Green, you need to be 62 or over or disabled. Your annual income for 1 person can't exceed 48,050, and for 2 people cannot exceed 54,900. And for Congregate, you have to be 62 or over, and you have to have a temporary or permanent difficulty in performing activities, day-to-day activities. Your annual income, again, cannot exceed $48,050. For a 2-person, it can't exceed 54,900.
And if it's a temporary difficulty and they recover, do they get to stay there?
Yes.
Okay.
So the application process, so again, I have some applications here, you can reach out. We can email you a application, we can fax it if you want us to mail it to you, whatever way you need it, we will send it to you. You can either, after you filled it out, you can either drop it off in person, you can mail the completed application to REM, Real Estate Masters, Property Management, 25 Gilbert Street. You can also email our property manager, Wes Robinson at cthousingpartners.org, or you can fax it to 203-438-1845. Once the applications are received, they're date stamped, they're entered into the system. Each applicant is systematically assigned a position number on the applicable waiting list. So you may have different position numbers based on which wait list you're on. We either notify you via email or mail of your position number. We don't like to give that information out on the phone. As units become available, we'll reach out to you and schedule a day and time for you to come see what unit's available. Any questions?
Yeah, I just have one piece of information too. The list that you saw today is not an exhaustive list of all of the units available in Ridgefield, because there are affordable housing units available in some of the private apartments, the apartment buildings that you see throughout the town. And I think Tony would know, I think there's at least 6 more coming on in the next year. If you look at off of Leachy and then what they're doing on Bailey, right? Yeah, I think.
Right, I know there's some projects that are underway.
Yeah, so I think, so when you see new buildings coming online, those are also now including more and more affordable units because of the way that they've changed the zoning in the town. And you can find a list of those private units on the affordable housing website. So if you, I'm sorry. So if you visit the affordable housing website, you will find all of this information as well as private units in town and the ability to contact those property owners to find out how to get on those, in those units and on those waivers.
And that's the affordable housing.
Committee website, yeah, I can, if you come up to me, I can give it to you afterwards.
Thank you.
Just so you know, point of information, Alice Dew, who is the Director of Planning and Zoning, provided us the list of 7 that are coming online.
7.
5 at 3 North Salem being constructed with 2 affordable at 60% of the state number and 1 at 80%. at 100D Danbury Road, the corner of Leeches Way and Farmingville Road. One unit at 60% and one at 80%, and then 34 Bailey, 2 units. It's a total of 7 altogether.
Income requirement, the same. Aren't those rents affordable state mandated? No.
No, they're not. So there's different programs. There's something called 830G. And 830G is a program that allows people to, it allows developers to bypass local zoning requirements if they're willing to put a certain number of affordable housing units in their locations. But Ridgefield just passed something, and my mind is going, called inclusionary zoning. And the inclusionary zoning has a sliding scale of how many units will need to be added to each development based upon the size of that development. So from now forward, anybody who decides to build 5 or more units in the town of Ridgefield, because of our local inclusionary zoning program, will have to build affordable units. So let's say you're building 5 single-family homes, one of those would have to be an affordable home. Let's say you're building 20 units, I think it's 4. I don't have the scale memorized, I apologize. But you can go on the town and zoning, the planning and zoning, I believe it was passed last May, April or May. So you can go and see that sliding scale and understand how that's gonna affect future development in the town.
Follow-up question on that. Who not monitors, but administrates that?
That's so far through planning and zoning, because it would be approval of the project.
So I mean, if I was interested in one of those units.
Well, that's gonna be the developer of that, what?
I go to the developer directly.
Well, it's it's an affordable unit and the developer will work with, I'm sure, do you know, Tony, who they work with? Is it clear?
So typically, you're using the term developer, whoever the landlord is, or
Right.
property manager,
Sorry,
you can
yeah.
contact them and they will have units that may be, rented for $3,500
Yeah.
a unit. And then you would need to ask them, I'm interested in the affordable units. They might have 2, they might have 3. And then you would go through the process of applying, to make sure that your income qualifies you for those units when they're available.
I apologize, yes, the developer is the person who's gonna build it with the units, but they're going to be managed by whoever is the landlord or property manager at that location. Thanks, sir. Colette?
Yes, you might want to write down the name Steve Zemo, Ridgefield Apartments. He's doing the Legion Bay development. Get on his list. You know, I'm sure he has a list.
Yes.
Because a lot of people do that.
I'll just clarify that, I had sent a couple of people in their direction, knowing that there was, properties in discussion, didn't know the timeline. They let me know that they didn't have an end date, and so they didn't have any answers to give people. And so I had said 1, 2, 3, 4 people and said, call them, make sure you're aware of the process. They weren't ready to receive those phone calls because they're still in months and months and months.
But I think Bailey has already started to list rental availability. Or at least there was something I saw about the Bailey apartments coming online, and I think the last I saw, there were 2 units going in there. So that might be worth reaching out for.
Any other question?
Well, it was more just a clarification. I happen to live in one of Zemo's buildings, and there's 20 units, and 6 of them are affordable. So they do, they're gonna come up from natural reasons, natural purposes. You just have to stay on top of it. And they are affordable. I think they just from hearsay, heard they pay like about 40% less than the rate. And that's pretty darn good.
Now, this is just informational. Joe, you brought up the point as far as can you regulate it and, make a priority for residents of Ridgefield. So I know that you have some market rate developers like down in Stanford. Real Estate Masters or CHP has a workforce housing unit that we do. So we manage properties down in Stanford where the affordable units are managed not by the developer, but by a separate entity that does that. So Ridgefield, they could do something along those lines where the developer, says you have to, live and work and, come from Ridgefield. You can make those, requirements.
And you'll be available after concluding remarks to talk to people.
Yes.
So in the meanwhile, thank you, Wade.
All right.
Very much, and Jen for your contributions. Thanks, Wade. So I'm not gonna let you go just yet.
Okay.
Well, no, you can sit down, but people, there's always more information. So before we end this, because we may run out of time, which is a good sign. At the back of the room, we have these two items. One is called the RAC card, which has a list of specific individual, highly important numbers that people are always going to ask about relative to the town. And we also have our newly put out Ridgefield Senior Central, a directory of programs and services available to Ridgefield seniors. This was mailed to everybody in case you didn't get yours or in case you haven't yet picked up one of these. They're at the back table with Joe, and he's, excuse me, these are for you. So please pick one up if you haven't. What I'd like to do is, now is another fun part of this. What's on your mind? Is there anything specific, whether it's this topic, although other topics can be introduced for us to go back to our drawing board, review, and, our mission is to respond to you for all matters relative to seniors. So is there anything that people wanted to bring up, have questions about in your town? Well, this is nice. We usually get a ton of questions. Okay, so nothing about transportation, traffic lights, tax assessments, things like that. Oh, good. No, seriously. So, so then I am going to go. Oh, Paulette, yes, please.
It's not a question, just, if you own a home in Ridgefield and you have not yet taken your senior credit at the tax department, look into it.
Yes, it's very valuable. Personally, I love paying less in taxes every year. And all I have to do is be a senior, live in my home for a year, and go over to the tax assessor's office. And we also have some nutritional snacks back at the end table with Joe. And again, anybody have any questions? Because if not, you're welcome to stay around for a little bit. We have a hard stop at 2:30, so there is time to mingle and talk to your neighbors. And most of all, thank you for coming. Yeah, again, talk to Wade. Because we're gonna let him stay here as long as you need him. Up until 2:30. Oh, we have one question. Yeah, sure.
I'm not allowed to drive because I had a stroke several years ago. Is there any means when to get around, like, for instance, if I don't have my husband anymore, how do you get around?
That's a good question. We do have something called Rides for Ridgefield, which is a free service, and you can sign up for that in town hall. I personally have signed up for it, and that's all volunteer. Yes, Clem. Oh, yes, we have the Sweetheart Bus, and Tony would have more information on that specifically. Yeah, and I'm sorry, what is your name?
My name is Joy Lewis.
I'm sorry?
Joy Lewis.
Hi, Joey. Well, Clem over here is sharing some other information we have. Thank you. Okay.